Welcome to the Staffing Industry Association live podcast for the growth game. So nice to be back with you, audience, and we're super happy and excited to be able to have our second guest here live at SIA in Miami. So Chad, Ware, thank you so much for joining us and taking the time to be on the show with us today.
My pleasure, Paul. Excited.
All right. So, Chad, I always love starting this, especially when we're just getting to know each other. I start the game with the podcast game with always where'd you come from? What's your background? What makes you tick? So, Chad, tell me a little bit about yourself and how did you fall in the staffing business?
No problem. Well, first, Paul, thanks for having me.
Pleasure.
That most of the career, I'm based out of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
Right. Diehard Steelers fan. So,
All right.
I'll say that most of my career has been in the supply chain industry.
Okay.
In the working with Fortune 500 companies.
Got it.
Inventory control, understanding their needs, moving goods from point A to point B, and everything in between.
Got it.
And I think about the last 15 years or so, I spent some time with Sears.
Okay.
Spent some time with GXO and XPO.
Yep. Okay.
Then about 2 years ago, decided to join the labor industry.
Got it. So let me guess though, you must have been on the other side hiring labor contractors. So you were fulfilling, you were figuring out logistics, you were hiring labor contractors, and then you decided to jump to the other side.
That's it.
Okay.
We had a unique opportunity
Yeah.
come up. It's a company called A1 Quality Logistical Solutions.
Okay. That's the company you're working with now?
That's it. Yes.
Got it.
Better known company.
All right.
Based out of Cincinnati, Ohio.
Cool.
It has 3 corporate offices, one in Cincinnati, Ontario, California,
Yeah.
and one in Atlanta, Georgia.
Got it.
And the owner, Bill Foster, I met with him 3 or 4 times here where I made a jump
Yeah.
2 years ago.
Sure.
And it was, kind of self-made, right, for 2001.
Yeah.
Passion behind the customer.
Yeah.
Building strategic partnerships with the experience of operations that I, with my past life, understanding what to look for as partnerships, its value to bring,
Right.
bringing it to the labor side, the labor industry, has been a great treat.
That sounds exciting. Very, very cool. And I think I've met Bill before too. And so I love that. I love passion in staffing. It seems like the people that I meet, the people that are on my show, so many of them come from different directions, but they're all trying to do something to be able to give back, to be able to allow people to kind of grow in their career and do something interesting. And I love that. So you were using staffing, went to the other side, started figuring out how to be able to help continue to grow this business. I'm sure that you're doing a lot of strategic growth initiatives then in your role.
We are.
Yeah.
Our company is really focused on the customer.
Yeah.
Right. So we have a strategic meeting with our customer to understand what their needs are. And our goal is not just meet our customers' expectations. The goal is to exceed them.
Right.
So we focus on getting our voice to customer feedback
Yeah.
on a monthly basis.
Interesting. How do you do that? How do you get the regular feedback?
We actually have meetings set up every month, 15-minute touch bases on top of where our operators are reaching out to the daily operate.
Right.
We reach out to the leaders in the business to get a pulse. For number one, how are we doing?
Right.
Number two, is there any additional needs to address when they're addressing today?
Right.
And the most important part is to where they hear our voice and we hear their voice.
Yeah.
They know who we are and with our objective to exceed their expectations.
I like that. It sounds like very process oriented in the way you're taking the feedback and implementing that in your operations. I think that's really smart. So on the growth game, our audience, which makes up most of the staffing industry actually in the U.S. and Canada, we're constantly looking to help the audience with finding matching, things that are already working, right? Pattern matching growth. Many of our audience has done different things, but maybe not a lot of strategy around an actual partnership initiative. So that whole initiative, being able to strategically sit back and say, listen, I'm going to hire and I'm going to put process around creating strategic growth around partnerships. What does that look like? I know that's really what you're heading up for A1. So give me an idea. If I'm a staffing owner and I've decided, I really need to double down on partnerships, maybe give me the first 2 things I should think about before I initiate that kind of a strategy?
First off, Paul, great question. I think the first thing you would look at is your existing customer base and the scalability within your existing customer base.
That's a great starting point.
For example, there's a lot of partners
Yes.
today that have multiple locations or multiple verticals
Okay.
across the U.S.
Got it.
Some industrial, some aerospace, chemical, for example.
Right.
And with these larger organizations that are operated through verticals,
Yeah.
when you have an introduction and you're doing business in one vertical, they might not know the service you offer in the neighboring states in a different vertical.
Right.
So it's getting those, when you build those strategic relationships with your current customer base, it's asking them to be introduced to the other folks, their peers within the organization to be able to scale.
Right.
But it's really the value you bring to them is the scalability.
I like that. So number one, look at the existing customer base. Maybe some of those customers are little tiny little entry points to something that could be a much bigger scale. I like that. What would you think would be the second thing that you would really need to evaluate before you make a strategy for strategic partnerships?
I think in a growth strategy, there's two prongs, right? There's farming and there's hunting.
Yeah.
And that first aspect we covered was really still farming.
Right.
The
Right.
other aspect is
Yeah.
and it is the value proposition you have as. And I think when you look at what your existing core business is, and you sit back and analyze the other partners or logos and industries you could grow into that you're not in today.
Right.
For example, if we're in the automotive industry for one customer, there is more than one automotive customer out there
Right.
to be able to scale.
Yeah.
And then you search for the introductions, your network to be able to see that you have within LinkedIn, friends, colleagues,
Right.
to get referrals and introductions.
Yep.
It's always good to be able to have when you take that voice of the customer and you could be able, when you get that positive feedback, and articulate that value proposition for your new customer base as well, just to get a good introduction.
Yeah. I like that. I'm in the staffing business. I've made some analysis. I've decided, hey, I need to have a strategic partnership strategy and initiative. Talk to me about the informal approach versus the formal approach to creating that infrastructure within an organization. Can it be done informally, or does it really need an executive team, a senior hire that really, has the partnership title? Like, what does it really take? What's the positives and negatives to being able to say, I'm just going to start informally, as opposed to I'm going to hire a strategic partnership executive that really runs this for me and drives at it solely as his or her key focus?
Sure. I think you need the proper tools around you, the determination, right, to make sure you're continuing to hunt till it sticks. Because timing is very critical.
Right.
When you're in the labor industry, most of our customers have more than one labor provider.
Right.
It comes down to timing, volume, needs,
Yeah.
a lot of different value propositions, right? And I'll tell you, once you find out what your value proposition is, that's what you stick to, because you have to start with what's most important to the customer.
Yeah.
The value you bring to them and what your value proposition.
Yeah, and really continue to drive that and continue to speak about that.
Absolutely right.
I know for me, we've constantly looked for partnerships and, both formal as well as more referral type partnerships. I know that for me, it seems like it was very easy to not have a total focus on the partnerships. Like, it's something that just happens in the business. And so I know I recently hired a senior VP who is in charge of our partnerships. And I know that for me, had a very distinct advantage in that some of these relationships I hadn't had time, or my other senior people hadn't had time to really focus on. I was able to, say, listen, here is my senior VP, head of strategic partnerships. I just hired a gentleman by the name of Adam Forbes. That's had a super dynamic shift in some of the relationships that we just couldn't get going with formality, that's now moving forward with formality. Have you found that in your organization, when that's your focus, does it just add more formality in the organization as well as with your customers, that they know why you're there?
Sure. I believe it does.
Yeah.
And I think it comes down to, within your network, we always say that if people know the people.
Right. Yes.
Get a referral, someone that trusts you.
Right.
That's referral you can get.
That's right. The best.
That they know
Absolutely.
here's what A1 is providing for me today.
Right.
They've done great service. I'm just passing them off to you.
Yeah.
Already have your foot in there.
Right.
So doubling down on those opportunities
Yeah.
are key for strategic growth.
Yeah, it's great. Let me ask you. So 2025, what's your outlook, and what do you see are the top 2 drivers for the growth that you're overseeing?
Sure. For us, I think right now we have a unique model within A1.
Mm-hmm.
We focus on reduction.
Mm-hmm.
So your typical labor provider
Mhm.
would do a, X amount of headcount with
Yeah.
X amount of mark,
Right.
right? We focus on production equality.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a unique labor model we're going to market
Mm-hmm.
where we invest in our team members that drive the best productivity quality.
Got it.
So it's a piece rate and we profit share
That's interesting.
team members.
Wow.
So what that does is that also breeds accountability
Yes.
and it breeds retention.
Right.
So the harder they work, the more money they earn,
Yeah.
which is a better product for our customer.
Right.
So number one is the brand awareness around that. So our customers understand and know that's our value proposition to them.
Right.
And this benefit they get of that is better quality, more productivity, and better retention.
I like that. I've really been hearing a lot more about this kind of statement of work part of our industry has really been getting a lot of fanfare lately. So what you're saying is instead of just charging X dollars per hour at a specific markup, you're really saying, listen, I'm going to produce this and I'm going to charge you for this. And then of course you've got to take the risk of making sure that your team members achieve, right? So, but how does a person implement that in their business who has just been used to going that, hey, if my employee works 8 hours, I'm going to charge 1 point something markup. How do you implement a statement of work type of product and not lose your shirt?
Oh, that's a great question. So we have engineers on our team,
Okay.
studies, and we have a lot of problem knowledge. The production model is what we do.
Got it.
So when we go visit a site, we sit down with the customer.
Mm-hmm.
We understand what their hurdle is today.
Yep.
We analyze it. We do multiple time studies around this. And we also take a look and we produce a product for them and give them a proposals that where their team members currently that would transition to our team has the ability to understand if you do 100 cases an hour and you make X.
Right.
With us, if you do 120, you make X more.
Nice.
They're in control of their own income.
I love that. Yeah, you can cull ambition out of a workforce and be able to probably end up with a higher quality at a better output.
That's exactly right. You can always do it and your team members can make more.
Yeah.
And it's less people doing it.
Right.
Saves the financial burden to the customer. Everyone is happier because in today's environment, most customers want 2 things. They want faster.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
Want to sacrifice quality.
That's right.
And we check those boxes.
That's super interesting. Well, that's really great to highlight. I mean, you've highlighted 2 things that we really formally on the Growth Game podcast haven't talked about. So I love the thought process around a lot of strategy when it comes to partnership initiatives. I think that's super important. That's a great takeaway. And I really appreciate this idea of the statement of work or really product-based pricing model. I'm seeing a lot more of that, and I think we're going to see a lot more conversation around that. Staffing firms are evolving. We're having to evolve to be able to stay up with things, so that's excellent. Well, I really appreciate the time today. This has been some great tidbits, and I look forward to seeing you have great success in your role there and in the company continue to grow, and so appreciate it very much. Thank you for being on today.
Thanks, Paul. My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. It's great. Well, that's another wrap for the Growth Game podcast and audience. Till next time, we'll see you later.